Hi, everyone. I'm Heben.
I'm Tracy.
And welcome to another round with Heben and Tracy.
You're welcome.
Just one?
Just one. Just one. Got to spread them out. And now a special announcement. Today, for the first time in Another Round history, a white guest will join us in the stude.
You heard that right, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
A white guest.
Yes, our color barrier is being broken today. This is truly a day that will live in infamy. So this guest is known in the streets as the reverse Jackie Robinson of podcasting.
If you will. I
If
won't,
you will.
but I...
Heaven's not going to. I'm gonna.
But today we're interviewing Chris Hayes of All In with Chris Hayes at MSNBC. We're very excited about it. What else we got at the show?
We have heard the people demand more Stacy and her sage advice. So today is the first edition of Stacy's Career Corner. She's going to just fix all of your lives. So you should probably write everything down.
Yes.
Laugh
Get out a pen and paper right now.
Yes.
And then rounds as usual.
Yeah.
Let's start the show.
All right.
So we're very excited to have Stacy Marie Ishmael back on the show.
By popular demand.
Yeah, the people really did demand this. Stacy Marie is the head of BuzzFeed News apps, multiple apps because it's iOS and Android.
Yes.
Shout out to the team. She's also just a wise, incredible woman, and people were like, I want her to tell me about my life.
Yes.
Some of the few responses we've gotten are around basically the question of how do you ask for a raise?
Yes.
Raises in general are just like baffling to me.
Right.
How do they work? How do you make it happen?
And I feel like they're even more baffling for women of color.
Accurate. Yes.
I remember talking to a friend of mine, and she was like, I might have mentioned this on the show already, but she was like, I worked a job with tons of black women from ages like 21 to 60, and none of them had ever had an occasion to ask for a raise.
So, Stacy Marie.
Yeah.
How do you ask for a raise?
Help.
I think that there are a couple of important foundational things to acknowledge, first of all, which is that there's a lot of research that shows that women are punished for negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go into this knowing that, especially if your boss is a white male, or indeed if your boss is also a woman, you are not expected socially to advocate on your own behalf. And so if you go in being like, I'm awesome, give me more money, they'll be like, wait, this is awkward. It's totally fine if you're evangelizing for your team or somebody that you work with, but if you're negotiating for yourself, there are a couple of things to think about. One of the things that you need to think about is that men are often assessed on potential and women are often assessed on performance.
Wow.
So if a man is negotiating for a raise, the premise can often be, here are the things that I think I'm going to do. Or here, this is what my career trajectory looks like. This is why you should reward me. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to continue to be valuable. When women, and especially women from diverse backgrounds, are negotiating for a raise, they've got to come in with a list of, here are 15 very specific reasons that I have excelled in the past 6 months or 12 months. And, I want to be rewarded based on the excellent work that I have done. Because there is less leeway given to women for future potential relative to how men are assessed. So that the subconscious criteria that people apply is really, really variable depending on those kinds of variables.
So what is that? Is that like a failure of the imagination for what people of color can do?
Right. Or women.
As you say, the tyranny of low expectations. So, and the other thing that you have to understand is raises are not about you and they're not about your personal circumstances. They're about your work. And something that women often do when they're negotiating, if they negotiate at all, is I have expenses or these are not
loans.
These things don't matter. They should not be the basis upon which you're this is why I need more money. It's I would like to make more money because I deserve to earn more money because I have done these things and I'm going to continue to do these things. It doesn't matter how hard you've worked. What matters is how the work you have done has benefited the team, the organization, the company, and your ability to tell exactly how your contributions have been a part of that. And going back to what I said, the first time you had me on, which is that women are hilarious at underselling themselves. It's I did this thing, it was cool, as opposed to I built this entire team.
Right.
And this is something that really manifests in negotiating discussions, and it's often something that hurts your negotiating position at the outset.
I'm really bad at that. I need to get a lot better at that.
I mean, it's really funny because one of the, a power move in negotiation is just being able to stop talking.
Ooh.
I'm
I'm writing this down.
Say more. Say more.
You know, so it's like, these are the reasons that I would like to make more money. Silence.
Fill the silence.
Yes.
And, you know, but your
Yes.
default response is like that, you know, like, no.
Uh-huh.
Like, stop talking. Like, let the other person
man.
digest. Give them room to respond to you as opposed to feeling like you have to fill the spaces.
Yeah, I feel like there's a 30 Rock sketch about like just don't speak. So they were both
sure,
in the
like, Jack
same room,
Donaghy
like,
was
who's gonna talk first? Yeah, it was definitely Jack Donaghy.
Yeah, it was definitely Jack Donaghy.
What I'm saying is that we value what you do, but this rate is unreasonable.
So, what you want to do?
I want to resolve this fairly and amicably. And I don't want any bad blood. So, it was nice negotiating with you, and here is all of your money.
Let the silence be there.
You know, I did that at brunch once.
What are you talking about, Tracy?
Okay, this is relevant. So we were at brunch. It's not that relevant, actually. We were at brunch once, and we had like exceeded the allotted time for bottomless mimosas, but we had ordered another round anyway.
Just like this situation.
Right. We had ordered another round anyway, and it never came. So I was like, "Excuse me, ma'am, the mimosas that we ordered, they never got here." And she was like, "Well, actually, the cutoff time's already happened." And I was just like, "Oh," and nobody said anything.
I actually do remember
Do
this.
you remember this? She
Yes.
was like, "But I'll give you
It
one
was
more
like a
round anyway."
staring contest.
Yeah.
You got to negotiate like mimosas are on the line.
Your ability to buy more mimosas is definitely on the line. You know, and that's a hard thing. But I mean, but key to all of this is assuming that you will even ask.
Ooh.
And that is pretty fundamental. It's just that you need to ask. The most power you will ever have in an employee-employer relationship is when they are trying to hire you or when they are trying to keep you. And those are often the times that people just are like, oh, that's so great that you even are. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if people started off at a salary they didn't negotiate, but like as they're working, obviously see the discrepancy
Right,
in
and-
like their work versus what they're paid.
And compound interest is a real thing, right? So if you fail to negotiate for an extra $10,000, like that lack of $10,000 is going to haunt you over the rest of your
Yes.
career because it means you're always benchmarked lower than you could potentially have been, and therefore the next time you want to raise it, like every additional increase is much more, right? So say you said yes to 30 instead of trying to negotiate for 45. It means that if you ever want to get to like 60, you know, the jump from 30 to 60 is much more substantial than the jump from
Right.
45 to 60.
Right.
And so that's one of the things you have to think about is that you should use every possible opportunity to ask for as much as you can. You're almost never going to get everything that you ask for. And so that's why you have to have a couple of positions. You have to have what's the dream, what will I expect, and what do I consider insulting?
Ooh. How do you convey this is insulting?
My go-to is to flip a table. I'm considering that that's
How do you do it professionally?
I mean, you want to avoid ever being made an insulting offer by, you know, so sometimes you might read a negotiating book. There's a good one called Getting to Yes. And one of the things that they talk about, there's a concept called BATNA, which stands for Best Alternative to the Negotiated Agreement, which is that if you were to walk away, like, what's your plan B, right? If they did come back with something insulting, what's your plan B? And when you have a plan B, one of the things that happens is you feel more confident about what you're asking for. So for some people, the plan B is I have another job offer. For some people, the plan B is, okay, if you don't want to give me more money, I'm going to ask for a better title, or I'm going to ask for more holiday or more holiday allowance, or I'm going to ask for the opportunity to work in an international office for 3 or 6 months. And so sometimes people focus too narrowly on negotiating salary without considering that there's a universe of different kinds of things that you can ask for, and which, depending on where you work, might be easier or harder to get. So, you know, so you really need to know, why are you negotiating? What are the things that are important to you? What are the things that are like not negotiable, right? So whether it is, I'm not interested in a higher title if I'm not going to get more money. Like, you really have to have a very clear list of why you're there and what you want to get out of that. But you also have to go into this knowing that it might not go in your favor. You know, they might say no to the more money. They might say no to the higher title. It might hurt your relationship with your boss, depending on if they're like, well, why are you asking me this? I'm so insulted. I thought we were friends. Which, you know, is like, not everybody is a good manager. People are humans. And one of the really tough things for a lot of people in different organizations is negotiating. Asking for a raise establishes that you are that somebody has the ability to make decisions that directly affect your life. And for some managers, that's something that they're really uncomfortable with because it then means that they have to go and advocate on your behalf to whoever it is that they report to, or if it's finance, etc. And this is, again, why it's so important to, when you're making your pitch, especially if you're a woman, and especially if you're a woman from a diverse background, to show how you have helped them. Right? Like how your work has helped the team, how your work has helped them do their jobs, because then they feel more invested in being able to like advocate on your behalf, right? Sometimes if you report directly to the CEO and they can make that decision, done. But often you're reporting to somebody who has to, ask somebody else.
Right.
This person would like to make X amount. Can I do that? Or this person would like this title. Can I do that? And so they need to have ammunition to go to battle for you.
Well, I hope you guys are all taking notes.
I'm going to get this entire segment tattooed, like everything that you said tattooed somewhere on my body where I can see it.
Thank you so much, Stacey Marie, for dropping all your wisdom and for reading management books so I don't have to.
Yeah. So what was the name of the book again, in case somebody
It's called
wants
Getting
to
to Yes by Roger Fisher and William Ury. And it's pretty short and extremely readable. And you find yourself negotiating all kinds of things that you didn't think were ever
Oh my God, I need this in my life.
At McDonald's, you're like, okay, your Big Mac is like $5.77. Well, I was thinking more $3.49.
I mean, but it's sometimes like you ever try to do that thing where you're trying to organize getting people to agree on a date for brunch and it's just a nightmare. You're like, okay, how about we do it this way?
You are so good at that. You are so good at that.
I feel like we should just change all career conversations to about brunch conversations so people
So
really know.
So relatable, at least for me.
All right. Thank you so much, Stacey
Thank
Marie.
you so much. You have
Always a pleasure.
changed.
This has been Stacey's Career Corner. Yes, that's the song now. All right. Thanks, Stacey.
All right.
And as always, you can follow Stacey Marie's work at the BuzzFeed News app. That's buzzfeed.com/news app if you haven't heard.
You can also find her on Twitter at S_M_I.
Team underscores.
So our next call-in question has to do with street harassment. In a few shows, we're going to be talking about this, and we want to hear from you.
Yes, so give us a call and tell us very quickly in about a 60-second bite about the most ridiculous or absurd thing you have ever heard from a street harasser as you're just living your life, making your way downtown, walking fast. So give us a call at 520-2-ROUNDS. That's 520-276-8637.
But if you can, send a voice memo to another round at BuzzFeed.com. That is our preferred method. But if you cannot, we still love you. So we're very excited to have Chris Hayes on our show. Yay. Chris is the host of MSNBC's All In with Chris Hayes. And as you may know, Chris, we have had a habit here at Another Round of interviewing interesting people, all of them who have happened to be people of color.
Happened.
Happenstance.
So I want to congratulate you, first of all, for being an interesting white person.
You did it.
Welcome.
You did
Welcome.
That's basically what I'm hoping the obituary reads.
Hey.
An interesting
on
white
the gravestone,
person.
here lies an interesting white person. The
okay.
few.
The few, the proud. The white people. So we like to sorry. We like to start off all our interviews by asking people, what do you do and why?
I make television. I make an hour of live TV every night. I do it because that's a harder question. I do it because even as the media landscape changes, there's nothing that has quite the kind of concentrated reach of television at this moment. And you have a kind of amazing opportunity to speak to, we probably have between our two shows, the show reruns at 11 o'clock, about 1 million people a night. And, you get to talk to 1 million people every night, which, is kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity. You don't get to talk to that many people. And I've been a journalist since I was out of college. And I like trying to learn about the world and figure the world out. And I remember my senior year of college kind of thinking, like, if there was a way I could hook it up so that I could learn but get paid, as opposed to pay to learn.
Yeah.
Like, can I pull off this hustle where, like, right now, my parents and other members of my family are paying for me to learn. But if I could go out in the world and then someone pays me to learn,
Yes, that's
like
a
that
dream.
would be pretty
Novel
sweet.
idea. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm 36, so I've basically more or less pulled that hustle off for 15 years. With varying degrees of success. But yeah, that's why I do it. I like to learn.
Awesome.
So let's go back in time a little bit. Friend of the show, Deezus,
Yes.
and Chris Hayes went to high school together
Middle
in the
school.
Bronx.
Middle school.
Middle school.
Excuse me.
IS 181. Let me tell you about IS 181. IS 181 is in Co-op City. Co-op City is this fascinating development on the way east side of the Bronx, in which they basically bought a huge amount of land and put up like 90 concrete skyscrapers and created Co-op City. And it's this some crazy like high modernist Le Corbusier dystopic vision of the future in which like
God.
it's all organized in like sections and they're sort of courtyards, but it's all very brutalist. It's all poured concrete. And there are schools there. And we were in this middle school, IS 181, that the years that we were there was being housed in a high school, Truman High School, because they were doing asbestos remediation
Jesus.
in the middle school.
Oh my God.
And so it was so weird because we would go to school and we were 10 or 11. We would go in the lobby and then we would take this elevator up to the floor that was like the middle school floor. And, interacting with these teenagers, with high school teenagers.
Yeah.
I remember at one point we went out for gym and for some reason, I had money in my pocket and I don't know why. I was in 5th grade. I'll never forget this. We were out at gym and there was like a craps game that the high school kids were playing
Oh
that
my
I was, of
God.
course, like pulled into. Like, yo, shorty, you want to come play? You want to come play? And like, I was like, sure, guys. And then like, next thing I know, it's like, I have no idea what the rules of craps are. Dice are being rolled up against this like little wall. People have money out. Like I have money out. And then like I'm winning, but then surprise, in the end I lost all my money. It's like, next time, shorty, next time. Like, okay,
For
bye, guys.
context, how old were you when you were shooting craps?
11 maybe? I was like 11. I mean, I didn't make a habit of it. This is a kind of a one-time thing I was snookered into. I remember being taught the electric slide by my friend Kamal,
Oh my
whose cousin was in the video. So this was like the special advanced knowledge. It was like my cousin was just in this video.
Oh my God.
That's
and like
amazing.
his cousin had been in a special ed video too. She was like kind of like a video girl.
So you grew up in the Bronx with a lot of black people.
Yes. One of the questions that we got the most when we were soliciting questions was, how is he so comfortable around black people? And my response was, well, he grew up in the Bronx. But they were like, well, that doesn't mean you have to like black people.
I mean,
So
that's true.
Nobody is satisfied with that answer. Would you like to go into any advanced detail?
Well, look, I mean, I grew up in the Bronx in the 80s.
Uh-huh.
The Bronx now is not a place where white people are the majority.
Right.
We ended up moving when I was like 11 or 12. We moved to this neighborhood that is predominantly white. It's Riverdale, which is like the sort of enclave, although we were in a part of it that was much more diverse than some parts of it are. But from the ages of 0 to 10, I lived in this just kind of working class outer borough neighborhood, which is just a really diverse place. Like my grade school, I go back and look at those photos, and my grade school was like almost literally a quarter white, a quarter black, a quarter Asian, and a quarter Latina. Like almost to the number. So I
That's
think
rare.
it's
Right.
super rare. Like
How does that happen?
I really like cherished the strange world of my upbringing, which was like this. So my father was a community organizer. He'd been a Jesuit priest, and then he left the priesthood, and he was a community organizer. My mom had been a teacher in the Bronx. She grew up in the Bronx, and I think my dad has spent his entire life working only around people of color, like essentially, like always, community organizer in the Bronx. He went to work every day in East Harlem for the New York City Public Health Department until he retired a few months ago. Like my whole parents' world was neighborhoods that are where there are not many white people. That was the world they inhabited. That was where the place where all these folks who were essentially kind of like well-meaning good white liberals from this certain Catholic faith tradition had come to like do good work. but I think the ethos that they embodied, because they were trained often as community organizers, and my mom was trained as an educator, is like managed to do a really good job of stripping them of some of the worst habits and inclinations of like white liberalism, which can be very, at its worst, can be extremely patronizing, savior-esque, condescending, etc. And I just think they did a pretty good job of transmitting that to me and my brother. Like my brother has been an organizer he's an organizer now.
How do you think about that kind of stuff like on your show? I remember reading you were saying, this was in 2013 when it was a weekend show. But like as a general rule, if there are 4 people sitting at a table, only 2 of them can be white men.
Yes. I've done a worse job of that in primetime, I have to say. I think that the pressures of booking a show nightly have pushed us away from, like, when I had 3 days ahead.
Right.
Just so much easier. It's
Yeah.
like, and I would just be like rigidly enforcing this. But yeah, I think broadly it is the case that I want to hear from a lot of different people, just as an intellectual matter.
Right.
Also as a matter of equality, social justice, but also it's just more interesting. So we try really hard to listen to different voices, and that means also, like, we really go out of our way to book conservatives on the show, because I want to hear from them too. You know, like that sort of talking to everyone also means, like, that was the thing I really loved about being a print reporter. You know, I did this big feature article on evangelical colleges, and it was just like, it is interesting to me to talk to people.
Right.
And so I went to, Pat Robertson's Regent University, and I went, to Wheaton, Illinois, and just, it was like, hey, what's up? Tell me about what your deal is.
Do you have like quotas or do you find quotas helpful? Like, we need to meet this specific number.
We did on the weekend show, and basically have abandoned it, which is not something I think I'm necessarily proud of.
Right. Do other shows have quotas? I don't
No.
even know how it works. I
No,
assume they
no
don't.
one- no, I think there's generally a sense of like, hey, let's diversify, but it's easy for diversity to get knocked down the queue of priorities.
Yes.
What?
Let me tell you guys something, okay? I'm gonna blow your mind. Check it.
Wait, let me get a pen. Let me write this down.
Check it. Sometimes, no. So I think there are so many competing pressures. It's very easy to have this idea in your head and then watch it get knocked down.
Word.
I don't know if you listen to the Wyatt Cenac on Mark Maron.
Yeah, that was an incredible episode.
Yeah.
That was incredible for a million reasons
yes,
before it got to the Daily Show.
Yes.
Like, it was just like, whoa,
Yes.
dude, like the relationship he has with his mother, like that was all very, very intense. But his thing about like, I feel like every employer, every manager needs to listen to that part where he's talking about being in that room as like the only one.
And I was the one black writer there. And so it was this thing where it's like, when you're the one, you speak for, whether you want to or not, you wind up speaking for everybody. And you speak for all the black people, but you also, at least for me, I always felt like I had to speak for all the minorities, because there's nobody speaking for them necessarily if something seems questionable.
My stomach was in knots listening to
Yes.
that, thinking about that. And there's
Flashbacks.
actually, yes, I mean, not for me, but yes.
Very triggering for me. Very triggering.
But also, we are constantly, our editorial meetings are constantly revolving around issues of race, because that is something that we are very committed to covering, and also is like really in the news.
Right.
And so having those conversations, like, trying to do a satire show where you have one black writer in that context seems just insane. It also seems like a suicide mission, frankly.
Yes.
Like,
We're
if
looking
you
at
do
you,
that,
SNL.
if you do that, you are going to blow yourself up. You are going to get it wrong. You're going to say something stupid.
It's unavoidable.
It's unavoidable
Yeah.
because everyone says, you know what I mean? Like, it's
And you can always tell when somebody has no brown people on their team. Always.
Yes.
It's like, who approved this? You know, like, who did you not run this by for this to happen?
But to continue this Daily Show thread, Trevor Noah was at the Television Critics Association, where like networks present to critics and advertisers, like, here are new shows in the fall. So he was talking about the new Daily Show with him. He said he's going to be spending less time covering Fox and more times covering BuzzFeed.
I saw that.
Which kind of signals a shift in like cultural attitudes, but also in like how people get the news.
Wait, but can I just respond to that for a second?
Yes.
I make a television show every day. Okay? In September, will mark 4 years I've been a television broadcaster full time. before I was a broadcaster, I didn't understand or know anything about television. I'm still relatively green, but I've learned some things. It's one thing to play a clip of another television show
Right.
as the subject of your satire. It's another to cut to a scroll over of a website.
Yeah.
Like, that's not as good TV. Like, when he said that, I was like, I don't care about what this means about media, blah, blah, but it's like the producer in me, and I'm not a producer, but you learn to be a
Right.
producer
Right,
as a
right.
host. The producer in me is like, I don't think that's going to work. Like Clickhole works because Clickhole is a website
Right.
that parodies another website or another sort of set of inclinations of websites.
Yeah.
Like, it's very hard to do cross
Yes.
cross medium parody. So
Yeah.
anyway, but yes, I think it was interesting because I think he is recognizes that, you know, there's this premium on young audiences for advertisers. It's part of the reason that BuzzFeed, I think, has been very successful. I think BuzzFeed is very like celebrated amongst the world of folks in media world because, and it's true of Vice, it's true of a bunch of other places where it's like, they have the young people. How do we get the young people?
Yeah.
What do the young people want?
Yeah.
And it's really weird because I have just crossed the barrier, like for the first time, I would say in the last few years of my life, where I'm like, okay, I am not, that always was me. Like, I remember being 25 and 26 and it was like all the old guard journalists were like, what is with these blogs? And I was like, what do you mean what's with these blogs? Like, you go to WordPress, you sign up, and then you have a
and
blog.
then you get one. It's that easy.
And now I am literally like, I cannot use Snapchat. I cannot use it. Okay? I have tried and been defeated. It's like my grandfather with the VCR. I'm like, I
Yo,
don't.
Snapchat is hard.
I cannot use
Snapchat
it.
is weird. It's
it's
super
the one
weird.
that I'm like, this is hard.
I tried it for a week and I was like, why don't I just text you this stuff? What's the point? Why don't I just tweet it or Instagram it?
So you feel that pressure to be like a little more relevant to younger people?
No, I mean, I don't, because cable news is not a medium that
Yeah,
young people are
but
watching. Like,
what's
the median age of cable news viewers is old. Okay? It's 58, 59, 60, somewhere around the median age.
Ooh,
Um,
Jesus.
well, partly though, that's partly a measurement problem, right? Because like, I meet young people all the time who are like, "Hey, Chris Hayes, whatever." They're watching clips online that are getting tweeted or into
Or
their
just
feed,
see you on Twitter.
or seeing me on
Yeah.
Twitter. But no, none of them are like, well, 8 o'clock. Let me just sit down and get the remote. And, okay, well, you know,
Sorry,
like
I
that's
can't
just
go out. I got to stay in and watch Chris
no
Hayes
one
tonight.
does that. Like, and I really think there's two different ways of thinking about this in the television industry. There's panic and there's and there's like fingers in the ears. Like there's this sort of old guard. It's like everyone's always going to watch TV, and they're right that like 25 million people a night watch the 3-hour evening newscasts. There's
Yeah.
nothing that has an audience like that. Like at the same time, 25 million people getting together to like that is massive. Okay.
Right.
The 24 million people that watch the Republican debate, there's no equivalent to that. At the same time, like, do you know anyone that sits and watches television real time as a habit? Honestly, do you know anyone your age?
I did last year because I had cable. I don't even have cable anymore.
You know, I don't even have a TV right now, and I don't miss it. I don't miss it.
Yeah.
No.
So there's a really interesting question about that, which is that a trend or is that an age effect? Right? So there's two possibilities. One is Heben and Tracy 10 years from now are the same way, right? Like you don't have cable, you don't have a TV, and you still have everything at your fingertips because you have Netflix and Hulu and you can grab things wherever, right? The other idea is that, okay, well, 10 years from now, who knows, you make more money, maybe you have kids. And,
can afford cable.
Right,
Right,
exactly. And then you
exactly.
sort of like age into
Yeah.
it the same way that like you age into nicer buying a new car or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And it's very unclear at this point because we've never had this cohort that is sort of a cord cutting cohort. We've never had them step through, so we don't know.
I do wonder though about the future of the like 24-hour cable news.
Yeah. What it's going to look like.
I was thinking about
I
this
would be
in
shocked
particular.
if it exists 10 years from now.
Really?
10 years from now? I would be surprised if 24-hour cable news exists. Yeah.
How will we end it?
How do we do that?
Thank you very much.
How do we put
Let
you
me
out of work?
rephrase that. So I was thinking specifically about the Ferguson coverage because it was like it was happening late at night. I was like, what is happening? I can't keep up with everything on Twitter. I just need one person telling me this. Hey, let me try the news. So ostensibly, that's a time when the 24-hour news cycle is like helpful for you.
Yeah, the medium feels most useful in those moments. It also often can veer into having its worst
Yes.
impulses. There's this battle between spectacle and context. It's like, as a television producer, speaking purely as a television producer, okay, I'm taking all my politics, like totally amoral. You light a car on fire, I will put my camera on a car burning for hours. Like, that is, like, you can just watch that. A car burning is like, buildings burning, right? Like, kids at Mondawmin Mall throwing rocks with T-shirts over their face. Like, again, erasing all politics, like the visual spectacle of that.
Right.
Now, the question is, what are you communicating to viewers over and above the visual spectacle that you're giving them? Is it like, these crazy people are rioting?
Yeah.
Is it, let me break down a little bit of the context here. Like, how do you communicate along those many channels?
Yeah.
And the temptations are bad temptations from a political and journalistic standpoint, because the temptation is towards conflict and spectacle as opposed towards context and understanding.
Right. It is.
Yeah. So speaking of media and the internet, what is your media diet? Like, what are you consuming? What
100% Black Twitter only. Just Black Twitter.
That's it. That's the appetizers, main course.
Vine videos.
Yes. Do you have a favorite?
Of toddlers popping and locking. No. I think, like a lot of people, my media diet is very much driven by social media, by like who I follow. By the way, can I just say, I think Black Twitter is like the greatest thing in the world.
Expound, say more.
Tell me more. Tell me more.
I think that, like, there are these different pockets of different worlds that I follow that are constantly like forcing me out of what would be my narrow confines of like what's going on in the world.
It's kind of like you get to be a fly on the wall of conversations that you were otherwise not privy to.
Absolutely. Like when that whole insane thing went down with the dude was going to fight the other dude about Kobe.
Temecula.
Yo.
I forgot all about that.
That was incredible.
I'm retroactively embarrassed for everybody involved. Everybody.
That was embarrassing.
It was just like a fight between two dudes, but somehow all of Twitter found
I
out.
Yeah, when he sent the picture of the sign that said "Welcome to Temecula," I was like, "Hell no!" Too much.
Oh
that was
God,
some great
driving
reality
around
TV.
Temecula.
It was amazing.
Oh God, and it was all
Men,
about.
I can't even.
Yes.
Men, exactly. People always talk about how emotional women are. This
Listen.
man left his children to
For
get in the
some
car and fight over some tweets about some man that doesn't know you exist. But we're emotional. Okay, sure, let's do that.
So do you feel like Black Twitter is more like of an accountability mechanism almost?
Oh, it is a tremendous accountability mechanism. I mean, I have sort of a theory about the coverage of Black Lives Matter over the last year. Basically, through sheer force of accident, it happens that the social network that sort of, let's say, conscious Black folks of a certain age use the most, and the social network that white journalists use the most happens to be the same social network through sheer accident. Like, there's no reason that would be the case. It just happens to be that. And I think that has had a demonstrable, appreciable effect on the coverage. Like, I think the fact that it's hashtag Black Lives Matter, the fact that it's like, oh, it's Netta, it's DeRay, like, I recognize those little avatars. Like, and the fact that that's also the place that journalists really go first had the really, I think, good effect on pushing the coverage and also on accountability.
So I want to talk a little bit about election stuff. So the Huffington Post publicly made a point to say like they're covering Trump in their entertainment section, not politics. Glenn Beck's radio show is like, he said, I just can't do another show about it. So he's like declared it a Trump-free zone.
Damn, and Glenn Beck is not even right with you.
I think Fox's relationship has been interesting. Someone at the New York Times called it mutually beneficial combat.
Yeah.
Like, how do you view your role in covering someone like him?
Oh, man. There's so many different ways that I would like to answer that question as like...
This is a safe space. Please go in, as the kids like to say.
No one will know.
No one will ever know what you think.
I think Trump is a fascinating and genuine phenomenon. And so I think he's worthy of coverage. Here's my feeling about elections. Elections are very, if I could get grad school for a second.
Go off, Chris. Go off.
Elections are very interesting texts to read. They are the way that a crazy ass nation communicates itself in some weird way. And I think there's a theory that like Trump is entirely media creation, which is partly true and partly not. You ever see the Jay Smooth video on this from like back in 2011 when there was like a little Trump bubble and he was like, and then people stopped talking about Trump and he fell in the polls and maybe it was you. I learned it from watching you. Like he had this whole riff about how it was a sort of like the chicken and egg of the coverage, the phenomenon.
Last week, a real news story broke that forced everyone on the news to stop talking about Donald Trump. And lo and behold, after 1 week of TV news people not talking about Donald Trump, they took another poll and found out that nobody cared about Donald Trump anymore. How could this be? It's like a miracle. Could it be that there was no organic force of nature compelling everyone to care? Could it be that there is no law of Trump gravity? Do you see what I'm saying? I think it was because of you, TV news people, all along. People cared so much because you talked about it so much. It was you. I learned it by watching you.
Look, we're part of that because we can't not be part of it in certain ways, right? Like, I think there's something fascinating happening with Trump, which is basically he distills down a certain kind of politics of affect, a certain kind of politics of tone that has come to dominate the Republican Party in the out years, in the Obama era of opposition, in which at a national level, they have not been governing. And it turns out people really like that because they have developed, conservative media has developed people's taste for that.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit like they're looking for the off switch on the Frankenstein.
Ooh.
And I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Something that we like to ask our guests, especially guests who deal with heavy things like people being murdered by police and just horrible news things. What is your self-care routine? How do you keep from going insane? How do you keep from being like a sponge that just soaks up all of the maladies of the awful parts of humanity? Because you deal a lot with that. So like once the cameras are off, how do you regenerate? How do you take care of yourself? Do you take care of yourself?
I take okay care of myself. I would say 3 things. One, my family. Number one, first and foremost, by far. Like I have an incredible family.
How do you balance parenting and work? Do you think men can have it all?
Can men have it all?
No. No one can have it all. That's what's so preposterous about the entire conceit. My schedule means that I can hang out with my kids in the morning, and that's great. And I love that. I miss bedtime every night, which is not great. But yeah, my kids are amazing. I have a 14-month-old.
We've been looking for a podcast, baby. We should talk more about this later.
He is
I'm not
super
trying to
cute.
take.
He's
I'm
super
just
cute.
like borrow.
His name's David, and I have
We'll
a
talk later.
3.5-year-old named Ryan, who's a girl, my daughter.
We can get 2 podcast babies.
Tracy.
I'm sorry. Okay, later. I'm sorry.
Ryan's not really a baby. I mean, if you'd called Ryan a baby, she would
Oh, we would
object at 3.5.
we would not insult her
At 3.5.
that
toddler.
Yeah.
We'll give her a title.
Yeah.
A podcast big girl.
So family first. Dark humor. Like one of the ways I deal with, like my humor is really dark in the workplace.
How dark does it get?
It's dark. It's like really dark. And it's the way that I process. Like, during that period last summer where the 2 things we were covering was Ferguson and ISIS beheading people. And it was just like these fucking videos, these fucking disgusting, horrifying motherfuckers doing this thing and just like in the most evil way. I hated them. I hated them for the act. I hated them for the fact they were trying to make me cover it. I hated it for the fact that we were going to all cover it. I just was filled with hatred for these people. Appropriate hatred. They are hateful people.
Well-placed hatred.
Joking is key to me to like not, even when it's like real gallows humor.
You have
So
to
like
laugh to
gallows
keep from
humor
crying.
is my like coping mechanism. And then the last thing I would say is pick up basketball, which is like the greatest thing in the world. And I am in one game every Monday night, which is great. I try to play another night a week through like indoorhoops.com, just like go to some random place and play ball. And if I could play ball every day of my life, I would do it if I could.
Oh,
so then
beautiful.
would you say that...
Would you say ball is life?
Ball is life.
All right, so we're going to do a segment that we call Pew Pew Pew. The finger guns are very important. Pew Pew Pew. Pew 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 Pew. Rapid fire, very random questions. Some came from other people. Most of them came from us. First question that we have to ask, because people get mad when we don't ask it of our guests, is how do you feel about squirrels? No pressure, but the way that you answer this question determines whether or not we are friends once you leave the studio.
I think they're gross.
Okay, good.
Good answer.
Right.
Good answer.
Besties.
I think if you grew up in New York, you don't think like
anything else.
Right. They're like pigeons. Like I bear them no ill will. They're not rats, but like do your thing, but like yeah.
Yes.
Pigeons are pretty cool for the record.
All right, Tracy,
It's
no,
a
we're not
different
doing this.
conversation.
We're not doing this.
Next question. Do you use lotion?
No.
Really? Like, I'm sorry.
Do you ever find yourself ashy?
No. I don't have particularly...
So you're just a well moisturized
I
man?
am a congenitally well moisturized man.
Which is undoubtedly linked to white privilege, I'm sure. That's why you don't have to use lotion.
100%.
I mean, goals. I wish my body did that.
Same. Everybody wants to know where you get your glasses.
Yes, that was like our number one question.
Yeah.
Warby Parker.
How did I know that?
Cheap and easy.
Do you have cable?
Yes.
Okay.
What is your favorite cuss word?
Fuck.
Good choice.
Beautiful.
Strong choice.
There's a rumor in the streets that you can beatbox.
Who started that rumor?
Oh my God, I don't know.
Can you or can you not confirm this?
No. I mean, I can in the way that like any idiot can.
So you understand that we're going to ask you to beatbox?
No, I'm not beatboxing.
Chris is like, I will not do that.
Oh, this is very, very important to me. Would you rather have the sensation of something being in your eye that you can't get out for a full year, or feel like you have to sneeze and not be able to for a full year?
Sneeze, definitely.
Really?
I have like let me tell you the thing about eyes.
Tell me about eyes.
At a certain point, I was like, I am going to do a thing that people do and get contacts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I went and I got fitted for contacts. And the guy said, okay, here's your prescription. Here's your contacts. Before we let you go, we have to do this. Go back in the back room and just put them in and take them out once before you leave.
Yeah.
I proceeded to go back and basically jam my freaking fingers in my eyes for 45 minutes. So I was sobbing and mottled. And then I was like, I can't do this. And he's like, well, just come back later. I then proceeded for a week to stop by this place and failed for a week to successfully put in and take out contacts.
Wow.
To the point where those contacts are still in that place in Washington, D.C. from 5 years ago when I waved the white flag on contacts. Like, so I have a thing about things in my eye.
Okay. I would actually prefer to feel like there's something in my eye for a year.
But when you look like you need to sneeze, you look horrible.
You just walk around with like doing the weird nose
That's also
thing.
true.
Yeah. A friend of mine calls that blue nose instead of blue balls.
Don't do this.
Because the
I do
sensation
not
of
want to
having
end on
to
that
sneeze.
note.
I understand the metaphor. Thank you for explaining.
See?
You're like blue
Thank
nose,
you.
and here's why.
I like to explain things. I always like people to understand. If you don't want to end on blue nose, I can find another question.
I don't.
Well, wait. One more quick question. What is your middle name?
Lofredo. It's my mother's maiden name.
Oh, somehow I was hoping that you would say Leroy.
Christopher
Lofredo's nice
Leroy.
too. I'm going to pretend like it's Leroy from here out. So awesome. Thank you so much for being our first white person for the
Being
show.
the reverse
hope-
Jackie Robinson.
Yeah.
The only one in the room. I hope
you,
that I
Chris.
spoke up for my people.
You can now go and talk about all the microaggressions you face as the only white man in the room. Oh my God, I had to speak for the entire white male race. I'm just one person. How can I do this?
As always, y'all can catch Chris Hayes at 8 p.m. on MSNBC, All In with Chris Hayes.
Oh, wait, I do want to say this. My mother once referred to you, I think I told you this already. My mother once referred to you as the handsome man who looks like Rachel Maddow.
I'll take it.
Yes. And they can follow you on Twitter at
Chris L. Hayes.
Chris L. Hayes, everyone.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
stopping
so
by.
much. It was fun.
Yes. All right, Tracy, I think it's time to buy some rounds.
Baby, come through. You deserve rounds tonight.
That was incredible.
Thank you.
All right, Tracy, who are you buying around for?
I am buying a round for the act of crocheting.
Ooh.
I have been crocheting for a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3 months. And
How did you even get into this?
well, funny you should ask. So I really like hobbies. I like having like something that I can like turn to and do at the end of the day where I can just kind of like turn off my brain and
I was
just
literally
like
just
make
thinking
something.
I need a hobby.
Yeah. The thing is, I'm not good at a lot of things that involve me like having to make stuff. Like I always have like interests and like I get hyper focused and I'm like, okay, I'm going to be like the best whatever that is like on earth. And like I'm so focused on it for like 2 weeks. And then I'm like, it's not really fun
Yeah.
anymore.
Letting
So-
go of the like, you don't have to be excellent at this. Just
Yeah,
do it. Have
right.
some fun.
Right, exactly.
So how'd you get into it?
Our coworker, Alana Oken, who works for BuzzFeed Life.
She's on the DIY desk. She knows everything.
Yes.
If I need to upgrade my life, I'm like, Alana,
She can literally make
point me to the right
anything.
Etsy store.
Anything. I once saw this woman like knit an entire like thing in like the course of an hour. It was
Yeah.
crazy. So she had this class where she was teaching people how to knit. So I learned how to like do a couple of like really, really easy stitches. And I fell in love with it because I really like repetitive things where like I don't have to like think about like what to do next. It's just
Yeah.
like I put this needle this way and then I loop it this way and then I loop it that way and I do it all over again. I will sit and do that forever because it's just a way to like turn off my brain because I'm so like
Yeah.
anxious and freaked out like the entire day.
Same.
So it became like a huge part of my self-care routine. And then I learned about crocheting and she did her best to teach me like the fundamentals. It was so hard. But I was like,
hard.
yes, but I was like, I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it. So I went home. I watched countless YouTube tutorials on how to crochet because I had the basics from Alana. And so like the YouTube tutorials just like kind of like got me to a place where I could make a blanket. So I've been making a baby blanket
Oh.
for my niece who is having a baby.
Oh my God.
So,
you're so sweet. You're the best great aunt.
oh my God.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's
didn't mean to
crazy
say it.
though. It's nuts. It's nuts. And like my favorite thing to listen to while I crochet is Kendrick. So like
Yes.
I'm on the train and I'm doing like this really old lady thing, but like I'm like bopping real hard, like, you know, like my rap hands are going from time to time. And it's just like it's my favorite part of the day. It's just being on the train and just like crocheting and just like looping over and over and over and over
That's
again.
amazing.
I love it. Also, I meet the nicest old ladies because they're like, "Oh my gosh, what are you making?"
Oh,
so
that's
around
beautiful.
for crocheting and knitting, and for Alana, who introduced me to a huge part of my self-care routine.
Yo.
Because it really
Shout out to
helps me chill
Lana.
out.
Shout out to Hobbies.
Yes, and Alana
Get you one.
Yeah, so if you want to follow Alana and see all the beautiful things that she makes, you can follow her on Twitter at Alana. That's ALANNA. So that's my round this week. Who are you buying around for? Who or what are you buying around for?
I would like to buy around for custom bras that fit.
What?
Yes.
I don't know if I have any of those.
I feel like I asked women, like, how many bras do you own? And how many do you wear? And how often do you wash them?
Ooh.
Everyone has depressing ass answers to all of those questions.
That would be a good calling question, a good set of calling questions.
Ooh, yeah. But anyways, I just got to a point in my life where I was like, you know what? This is like a fundamental part of how I present myself. Let me step it up. So I went to this place called Iris Lingerie, which is basically a small little like boutique shop in Brooklyn where you can get custom fitted bras. And I don't mean custom like it's mad special. It's just like a real human like
Actually
measures
your
you.
boobs.
Yes. And you know how like every Oprah special is like, women don't know what bra size they're wearing.
I've been wearing a 32B all
Yes.
my life. Turns out I should be wearing a 46D.
Honestly, though, it is like transformative.
That's what
it
I
changes
hear.
your life. This place is run by like a dope Caribbean woman.
Okay.
And she reminds me of my auntie, so it feels mad familiar to me. But for other people who might be newer to this experience, it's a little more hands-on and like she's all up in your business.
Oh.
So it's like you go and you want it like a consultation, and she'll be like, all right, ma'am, get naked in front of me. Like, let's do this. Let's do this. So I do want to warn people a little if they're not used to that. But I was at brunch the other day, and all of my girlfriends were like going around the circle talking about their boyfriends and girlfriends and what's going on in their life. And I was like, I just got a new bra. I'm feeling great. So get yourself a nice ass bra.
So did it really, like, do you feel like when you got the new bra, did you feel like you were like living life wrong?
Yes.
Really?
I genuinely feel that
Was
way.
it expensive though?
It was. Well, expensive to me is like, I get my bras at like Ross and Marshalls.
Listen.
And I'm like,
maybe Target.
$25. But like people are used to, I don't know. I like even Victoria's Secret prices are like $60.
Yeah.
So it was like around there. So it's
Okay.
not exorbitant in terms of normal people prices. But for me, that was like, what am I doing spending so much on one article of clothing? So I do honestly, genuinely recommend getting like a custom bra fitting. And I've done it before at like Victoria's Secret, and those people never know what they're doing.
Interesting.
And if you can't find a store, honestly, look online and just like, the whole point of this is like get things that fit you and are perfect for your life. Which I'm trying to do in every sphere. So like bras is a start because it's so foundational. But I'm like doing it everywhere. Shout out to bras, custom bras.
Bras that fit.
Bras that fit, bras you take care of.
I'm going to get one day.
And shout out to like making the best out of every single portion of your life.
Oh,
even
beautiful.
if it's just a bra.
Even if it's just a
It
bra.
will change your life, guys. Honestly. You walk different, okay? Shout out to bras.
All right.
We did it.
We did it. We did it. Yeah. We did it.
Thank you so much to Chris Hayes for stopping by,
It was
answering
so
all our
fun.
questions.
We're going to make his kids our podcast, baby.
Listen.
It's going to happen.
If you have other candidates for Podcast Baby, let us know.
The requirements are be a baby and be able to talk and hold a conversation.
That's it.
That's all. That's all we need out of a podcast, baby. Thank you to Chris Hayes. Thank you to Stacy Marie for changing everybody's life.
Always.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God.
Thank you to Heben.
Thank you to Tracy.
Oh my God, you're so good. Oh my God. Thank you to the Pod Squad.
Pod Squad.
Only reason we are here. That is Eleanor Kagan, Jenna Weiss Berman, Julia Furlan, and also Paul. Paul's wearing long sleeves right now. Paul, what are you doing?
What's going on? He's throwing us all off.
Oh, Paul just gave us a little shoulder. All right, this is getting X-rated. We got to wrap it up.
You guys should know when I say Pod Squad, when we say Pod Squad, you have to hear it in the Waka Flocka voice. I just can't do impressions. Also, you should Google Waka Flocka's like ad libs without the music.
Oh my gosh.
It will change your
Amazing.
life.
Also Google Waka Flocka talking about voting. It's the funniest thing in the world.
Just
Have
get
you heard
more
this?
Waka in your life.
He was on 106 in Park and somebody asked him about voting. He was like, yeah, voting good. You need to vote. It's so good. It's so good. So do that. Thank you to our in-house musicians. That is Jean Gray, who tweets as Jean Greasy. We're going to be on her show pretty soon.
Hey.
So listen out for details for that. Also, thank you to Don Will of the Almighty Tanya Morgan. You can follow him at Don Will. That's DONWILL. You can follow Heben at Heben Rants. That's Heben the noun and Rants the verb. It
I'm
makes
trying
me
to get
so
better
happy to say
at
that.
making it like not that.
Oh.
So Heaven like the place I don't believe in. Kanye rants like the verb people use to describe Kanye.
Oh, that's
Every
heavy.
time Kanye speaks.
That's pretty heavy.
Yeah, I want to go out in a heavy note, Tracy.
Okay. All right. Well, we've done that. You can follow
And
me.
shout out to Brokey McPoverty.
not quite as intense. It's just a summary of my bank account, which is pretty sad though. It's
as
actually
always,
pretty heavy.
Yeah, we'll both end on heavy notes. As always, drink some water, guys.
Call your mom and take your meds. I'm doing so horribly at that.
You know what else you should do?
What?
Back up your data.
Ooh.
When was the last time you backed up your data?
I was not prepared
I was
for
doing that shit last night.
What?
I feel so good.
Damn.
Honestly, it'll change your life.
I'm going to do that.
Maybe try some yoga.
Yeah, maybe.
And if you love the show, rate us on iTunes and leave a review. That helps us with all iTunes things, but also just helps us get to know how people feel about the show.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions or want to talk to us, another round at BuzzFeed.com.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Yay.
And that's a wrap.
Bye. I personally have never been to the Bronx or Queens, which is I know, I'm not proud.
Shaking my head.
I'm not proud, guys. I'm not proud. I'm gonna go eventually one day.
The greatest thing about the Bronx Zoo is like you will hear parents yelling at their kids in 20 different languages. It's like get back over here. Get back over here.
Oh, that's beautiful.
In 20 different. No, you can't have more ice cream.